Start counting.
5, 6, 7.
In 4, damn it! Look at me.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2,
3. Motherfucker! You hit me in the ear.
Bitch.
Hey, bitch. Why don't you suck on this shit, motherfucker?
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains in. Damn!
Game over.
Yeah, so right off the rip, I just want to say that this is a continuation if you're following us tonight. And if you're watching this on the replay or even right now, I will warn you that there's going to be no hour limit on this one. I'm not saying we're going to go over an hour. I'm going to let it flow naturally like any other episode. But
we'll come to a natural conclusion somewhere. We'll figure it out.
Yeah, you know what I mean? But,
yeah.
You know, if it starts hitting that hour mark, just be aware that, you know, it might not be over. So with that said, Austin, I'm going to let you start it off today.
Well, we kind of we got off on a tangent about the Rocky franchise, but it talked about me seeing the Rocky IV director's cut, and I wanted to kind of get on this topic of director's cuts or directors kind of altering their original films or going back and revisiting something, you know, and kind of get your thoughts on that. Do you have like a favorite sort of extended cut or director's cut or alternate cut, you know, anything like that of a movie, anything that comes to mind? I have a few, but I was going to get your thoughts if you have any that come directly to mind.
So I have a few that are like the obvious, like I have to watch theatrical because the other ones are too long. But in terms of like the first one that comes to mind, no question about it, is Leanne the Professional. Because
I just watched that for the first time. I had never seen the movie at all, and I just my first viewing was the extended cut. So okay, that's interesting.
So this is perfect then. So you know the little montage they do where Natalie Portman's Matilda actually is training and she's doing the bubble gum. She's got the beanie on and she's like in character.
Yeah.
That's not in the director's or in the theatrical. And like, imagine watching that movie without having that scene. Like, there's just so much. Like, it just adds to who they are and their bond and their connection and the growth that they've gotten. Because it's just, I don't know. It's one of those where watching it without it it's missing something. So it's like I haven't watched it in a while, and I'm afraid to because it's like I don't really have anything else to take off my top 100. But like I want them to be on there and like. That's alone and like the connection is, I don't know, it's crazy. So that's the first one that comes to my mind, no doubt about it.
Sweet. Yeah, no, I the one I watched most recently besides that one, I'd forgotten that I watched Leon the Professional because I had watched it before we did it was an episode of something I can't remember over on Jordan's channel where and that was one of my blind spots, and I had the Blu-ray sitting over there on my shelf and I just hadn't popped it in, but it had the extended cut on it that's like 15 minutes longer or whatever it is. And but yeah, it was great. But for me, the most recent thing I watched is I picked up the 4K of the Apocalypse Now final cut. Now, have you seen all the alternate cuts or various cuts of Apocalypse Now? How familiar?
I've seen clips of the Redux scenes, but I haven't seen it as the entire thing. But I've seen the theatrical and I've seen the final cut of the two. So yes.
And that's the thing is the Redux for me is too long. Like it's too indulgent because they spend way too long with the side. Right? Yeah. I call it the side quests. Yeah, the French plantation stuff. But then I went back and watched this new final cut where it's like. It's the theatrical cut, but he adds in some of the stuff in the middle with like the Playboy playmates and some of the little scenes here and there, the character scenes, but it also has a little bit of the plantation stuff. There's like 15-20 minutes of that stuff, but it's just the core, like a couple of the core elements of that, but it's not as extended. So the whole thing together is the original theatrical cut's about 2.5 hours. The final cut is 3. I think Redux is like 3.5 or 3:40, something like that. So yeah, that's too long, but I think this new final cut is actually almost perfect. Like I think it adds just enough of those character beats that make that enhance your viewing of the thing and add some more of the Martin Sheen stuff, like to get a little bit more in his head, and enough of the plantation stuff before you get to the final kind of confrontation with Colonel Kurtz, in his like village, thing. But yeah, like, see Apocalypse Now. It fucking holds up. It's great. It's great. It's one of the most visually stunning movies you'll ever see, especially if you watch like a 4K or a Blu-ray or something like that. You got a good setup. It's amazingly gorgeous.
The opening scene with the doors, it really just gets you in that world. And the fact that he's really drunk in real life, it really just it's like, is that method acting? Is it him having a problem? Who knows at this point? But the fact that it works for the movie because it's so raw.
Well, if you've seen Major Payne when he's like bumming around his room, you know what I mean? When he comes back from war, like it's a direct parody of Apocalypse Now, but it puts it in a whole. I didn't know that as a kid, and when you go back and watch it, and you're like, oh, that was a parody of Apocalypse Now. Okay, all right, that's a whole nother thing. Sweet smell of mustard gas, all that shit. But yeah, like. But Apocalypse Now is a great example of one of those where I think it works when he kind of tinkers with it. I also watched, speaking of Francis Ford Coppola, another one where it was unnecessary. I don't know if you've seen The Godfather Coda, this new thing he put out for The Godfather 3.
No, I have it for because I bought the bundle on Vudu, and I have, fun fact, I've never seen 3. So
okay,
it's going to be similar to the Rocky 4 thing, where it's like when I watch it, it's like, do you watch it for the first time? Like, if you've never seen Rocky 4 right now, it's like, do you watch for the first time or do you watch the original? So give me an idea. Okay, so this new Coda thing is really not that much different than the theatrical. They're really not that different. I mean, it's more of a tinkering of a few little things rather than an outright like director's cut re-edit. You know what I mean? The only difference is he takes a scene that was in like the middle of the movie where Al Pacino's talking to like this archbishop and setting up this deal. He puts that in the first scene, like he moves it to the front of the film to kind of get the plot going before they go to this party, and then he just rescores a few of the things here and there, and then he has a different final shot. That's it. So you can watch The Godfather Coda, and it's pretty much the same. You don't need to spend 2 hours and 40 minutes watching both cuts. You know what I mean? They're pretty much exactly the same. But that's an example where I felt like, if you're going to do that, then let's do something different, because I got through that and I was like, well, what was I had watched the Godfather theatrical cut because I had the original Blu-ray set, those Coppola restorations, I had popped it in because I had never seen Godfather 3. I'd heard the reputation. I popped it in. It's really not that bad. You know what I mean? It's fine. It's not that bad. Yeah. People made a big fucking deal out of made it like it's the worst movie ever. They made this whole thing about Sofia Coppola ruining the movie. She's only in 20 minutes of the damn movie out of 2 hours and 40 minutes. She's not in it that much. Her scenes are not the best. She's not great, but she doesn't kill the entire movie. You know what I mean? She just doesn't. She's not a major plot point until kind of the end, which I won't spoil. But yeah, this new Godfather Coda thing, I feel like if you're gonna take it upon yourself to present it as something new, there needs to be something different, and it's really not. I feel like when you're just shuffling the scenes around here a little bit, that's not really like you're presenting something special. You know what I mean? So this one's tough to say because I haven't seen the other versions, but Blade Runner Final Cut is another one where it's like,
I don't like Blade Runner. I'm not a fan.
Yeah, so that's
I have a hot take. I have a hot take. I don't like Blade Runner.
Have you seen the Final Cut? I'm just curious. Like which cut?
I've tried to watch Blade Runner about a dozen times. I fall asleep.
But which cut though? I still ask you,
Okay. I started out with, I blind bought years and years ago a DVD of the director's cut, the one without the narration. Okay. So I tried to watch it, fell asleep. Tried again about a year later, fell asleep. I just literally could not get through the movie, no matter how rested I was. I just couldn't get through it. So I have a Blu-ray of the new Final Cut, kind of like Apocalypse Now. The new Final Cut. Again, again, I try to watch it. I just lose interest. It just doesn't grasp me. I need to give it another watch. I know I do. I'm going to make it through someday. Maybe I need to see it theatrically. If I could ever find a repertory screening where I can really lock in a theater, like, I think I'd be good, because I just, for whatever reason, I lose interest. But yeah, that's one where it's fascinating too, all the different cuts and the machinations and what people prefer versus what they don't prefer.
So for me, this is I actually have like about I could probably do a top 10 of movies that the first time I watched either bored me to tears or I hated for one reason. You know, sometimes you just randomly, you know, shit happens. It's just bad time. Worse. Blah,
sure,
blah, blah.
You're not in a good space to watch the movie, and that's not the movie's
for Blade
fault.
Runner
That's your fault.
specifically, it was just I didn't know what I was going into. But now, like, you know, I'm a science fiction fan now. Hello, Antonio. I'm a science fiction fan now, and B, I've just seen it so many times that, like, the beats and just everything that's going, like, I'm just drawn in. Like, Blade Runner is probably one of like you know, spoiler alert, I'm gonna talk about this in a couple weeks, but Blade Runner is one of the few movies where, like, the pacing, like, it's what do they say about Lord of the Rings, where it's like I could do 2 more hours of this because I'm just so invested in the world and the
sure.
Like, that's how I am with Blade Runner, where it's just like I just love the concept of, you know, what the replicants are, and, like, you know, it's the what is it, the God complex, and like that theory of, like, you know, you're dealing with all that stuff, and also I just love police procedurals and all that stuff, and it really encapsulates all of that. Like, that's Blade Runner is one of the movies when I'm thinking of, like, sci-fi, where it's like, what do I like about sci-fi? And it's like I love the concept of, like, what is or what can be. And, like, that's why I gravitated to Ex Machina from, like, day one. You know what I mean? Because it follows a similar idea. And it's like Blade Runner and Ex Machina are, like, two of the movies that are, like, neck and neck for, like, why I love, like, the type of sci-fi that I love. And, like we were kind of talking about, you need to see Blade Runner in the theater. And it's like that's how I was about 2001: A Space Odyssey, where it's like
I got to see it in a theater. Yeah.
That was like if I watched it in the theater tomorrow, top 100, no doubt, probably high as shit. But, like, right now, it's just not there. Like, it's one of the, like, you know, everyone likes to diss about, like, Mad Max Fury Road. It's like, oh, it's only a theater experience, blah blah blah. It's like, no, it's great at home. But, like, 2001: Space Odyssey, yes. Put me in the theater and I am all in. Like, I will watch the intermission, like, as it's on their screen for 10 minutes.
I have two things like that, because I got a chance to see, back when I lived in Florida, there was a Cinemark near my house that had one of those XD theaters, you know, the big screen, the big sound system, and they showed a lot of classic stuff. So I got to see 2001: A Space Odyssey on a huge screen with a great sound system. Sucked me right in. I was all in. I also got to see, for my first viewing, Lawrence of Arabia on a giant screen.
That's one. That's another one where it's like,
that's one. It doesn't work at home. It doesn't work at home. No, you have to see that in the theater. 1000%, you have to see that in the theater. And luckily, I got to see that in the theater. Also, I got to see Dr. Zhivago. Not as good. I don't really recommend that one. That one drags. Yeah. But Lawrence of Arabia is one of those ones that, when you see, even if you have, like, I have a 75-inch 4K TV, a great soundbar, a great subwoofer. I have a great setup. But, like, it's just not going to hit you the same way as watching it on, like, an IMAX size screen.
And also,
it's not going to do it.
Like, it's
to whip out your phone and start looking up trivia, start looking up whatever, as opposed to these landscapes in front of you, you know, on a big screen, and you're looking through, like, a window and at these deserts, and you get sucked into the world. It's just not going to work the same way. So same thing with Bridge on the River Kwai. I got to see it in the theater for my first time.
Fun fact about Bridge on the River Kwai. So, like, with my movie, I'm a FedEx driver, and how it's set up is like, so imagine my microphone right here is like my iPad with, like, my GPS on it. My phone is right above it. So, like, I'm constantly, and, like, my truck, like, it's, you know, it's, imagine like driving in your car is like 4:3 on the TV screen.
Oh, right.
Driving in my FedEx truck is like, you know, 16:9. It's the widescreen. You know what I mean? I get to everything. So it's like, yes, I'm not looking directly at it, but, like, it's so, like, in the peripheral that, like, it is still there. But anyway, the first time I ever watched Bridge of Quiet was recently on my phone, and it's like I still really enjoyed the film. It's like, don't get me wrong, but it might amplify. So this is important. Like, it's one of those ones you're able to, like, differentiate movies.
Differentiate.
That was a struggle. I don't struggle with words very often, but that was one.
Differentiate. I got you.
So anyway, what do you when you defer between two different movies of like, do they hold up no matter what, all scales, or do they need to be seen on the big screen? It's like it's
Sure.
kind of like a test, where it's like, especially now with me on my top 100, where I'm like, do I have the passion for these movies, or do I have the mindset to watch these movies? And I feel like there's a difference between it, and it's like sometimes I'll do that, and I'll test it. So when I watched it, it was one of those, I'm like, honestly, I'm gonna be dead ass honest with myself. I'm probably never gonna watch this, or I'm not gonna watch this for a while at home. So I'm gonna watch it at work and for Gone with the Wind when I did the tear fights with you guys. I did that at home, but I fucking loved it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? What I
did too. I watched Gone with the Wind for the first time. Yeah, for that show.
Maybe not, because I might have been distracted. I might have got bored. But like at work, when I got nothing else to do, and it's in my AirPod Pros, where it's like, even if I'm delivering and I'm taking a break from like watching it, I hear everything going on. You know what I mean? So it puts me still in that mode, and it's one of those where it's like, it's an opportunity. So I love that you brought that up though, where it's a Lawrence of Arabia. I've seen the first 45 minutes of that movie about 42 times. I've only seen it the entire 3.5 movie once, and I was like, yeah.
So you're bored after 45 minutes?
Lawrence of Arabia is one of those things but when I saw it in the theater, you're sitting there and they're doing the setup, and there's a lot of talking and meetings and military guys talking to each other, kind of setting up the premise. But like when you're sitting in the theater and then they finally like the screen blows up and the score hits, and you get the first shot of like the desert, with David Lean, like the way he shoots it, and you're just like, holy shit. Like in a theater, you're just like, now this is why I came to the theater today. You know what I mean? And then for the next hour, it's like these epic shots of the desert and them going through the thing, and in the theater, you're locked in for the rest of the movie. But yeah, you're not going to have that at home. You're just going to be like, even when they hit it even if you have a big screen, they hit that shot of the desert. It's pretty. It's still nice to look at, but like, it's not going to just smack you in the face like it does in a theater, It's just not going to do it.
And so, I'm going to go to Antonio in a second, but I'm going to say kind of what I touched on earlier with Mad Max Fury Road, where it's like, if you've seen Mad Max Fury Road in theaters, the memory of watching it in theaters still holds up and like amplifies you watching it home, because your insides are like, ooh, I remember what I felt in the theater. But also when I'm watching at home, it's still fucking awesome. You know what I mean? So it's like a double.
Oh, sure.
Like, it still works, but it still invokes that memory. You know what I mean? So it's like, what you're talking about of the Lawrence of Arabia, where it's like at home, you're like, it's really not gonna like, oh yeah, oh shit, I wish I was watching it in theater, versus like, hell yeah. And it's like, you don't even know why you're amped up. It's just like the memory of the theater. It's like, I feel like that's why Mad Max Fury Road works.
No, and it sticks out, and it's just not going to hit you when the score kicks in for Lawrence. I'm sorry, Antonio. I'll let you go. Say, but yeah, when you hit the shot of the desert and that iconic score, and it's coming at you from all, and you were like,
I said, I've heard that 40 times.
I'm transported into the desert, and like you're there. But yeah, it's just, it's an interesting discussion about theatrical experience versus home experience, and when your first time seeing it, one versus the other, how that affects your perception of the movie later on. It's definitely a discussion to be had. But yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So Antonio, I guess my first question to give you an opportunity to say your piece is, I'll give you two sides of this coin. What is something that you saw in theater the first time that blew your mind? Could be for whatever reason, expectations, you haven't been in the theater in a year and a half because of COVID, whatever, your own personal reasons, where is when you rewatch it, you're like, it didn't really hold up as much at home. So theater versus home experience on the downturn. And then the second one, where it's like, what movie did you watch in theater? You're like, this fucking rocked. And then when you watch it at home, you're like, no, this still rocked. But it's more of a theater experience. Like you said, I think one of the episodes you talked about, where it's like, you don't really waste your time with the dramas because, you only have so much resources to watch movies. So it's like, I know you watch a lot of the spectacle movies, which is great. So that's the purpose for this question. So both sides of those coins, like what are you going with?
Because I don't know, maybe it was just more like having nostalgia goggles. So like the first time I saw, and I was also with my ex at the time, and we were both really into Star Wars. Like I got her into Star Wars. So when we made plans to go see Rise of Skywalker, banger, the first time, I was like, again, I just feel like I just had goggles on. I didn't realize how shitty it was, but that's what I'm saying. So I thought it rocked.
I love it.
And then as I go, and then I even like, I still sometimes, I'll be honest, I still sometimes tear up at that scene where like Luke uses his powers to get the X-wing out of the water, just because it uses the Yoda theme, from Empire Strikes Back, because I love that's my favorite like score out of all like 9 movies or 11 movies rather, and so just bringing that back from Empire was cool. But then so then when I saw it at home and I downloaded it, I was like, all right, let me rewatch this, and then I haven't been able to finish it since. Like that's how bad it was to me. And that's someone as like a diehard Star Wars fan. I'm just like, yeah, I disown the sequels now, except for maybe Force Awakens. That's it. But like otherwise, yeah, that's only one. Like,
oh my, I'm not going there. Maybe Force Awakens. Oh my god,
no, Force Awakens
in my top 100 right now. Don't piss me off.
Right. What? That's the only one I really love out of the 3. And that's just because that's my boy Han.
What's the other side of the coin? Answer
the other side where it was still like awesome.
That still holds up, where it's like it transcends the concept of movie theaters, or your memory of the movie theater is so, like I was talking about Fury Road, where it's the memory in the theater is so strong that it's like okay, here is a weird analogy, but Austin, you'll appreciate this as a huge Willy Wonka fan. The scene in Thor Ragnarok, where it's like when he's like the Willy Wonka, when he's like going through it, he feels like he's there, but then he's really not. But your memory of Willy Wonka is so great that you're like, yeah, it feels like he was really there. So like, what is a good example of that, where it's like it still holds up regardless?
Yeah. So I think what was that? Yeah, I was 17 years old, and so I grew up a Star Wars fan. I never was into Star Trek, so. When I was 17, I went to go see Star Trek 09 in IMAX with my brothers, and it was a Lincoln Square IMAX, which was at that time like the biggest IMAX in New York City, which I think it still is. So I saw that, and seeing that in theaters was freaking amazing, especially those first 10 minutes.
Yeah, I need to rewatch it, but I do remember, what is that, when he's in the bar, or are you talking about the throwback with Chris Hemsworth?
Or Chris Hemsworth, those first 10 minutes where it's just him, like when he's being born, and just the music and the visuals is freaking amazing. And yeah, oh hey, what's up, guys? And then but then seeing it even at home, like right now, I can't use my sound bar, which I hate because I live with my folks, so like they would complain. But I mean, I have it, like it's just sitting, it's just
boom boom.
But I mean, rewatching those first 10 minutes, the whole movie is great, but the first 10 minutes especially, it still holds up. It's fucking amazing. I just love how it was everything just shot. But like, yeah, especially seeing an IMAX for the first time ever was just something that I will never forget.
There you go. So Chad Carey, I'll let you be introduced to this. So we're talking about theater experiences. So you have two sides. You can answer one or the other, whatever one you're more passionate about. What is a movie that you saw in theaters for the first time that blew your socks off, but unfortunately when you rewatched it at home, it just didn't hold up? Or what is a movie that you watched in theater that you're like, there's no way that it'll ever, I'll be able to like do this again, but at home somehow it still holds up. Whereas my example is Mad Max Fury Road, where it's like in theaters, perfect. At home, if not perfect, as close as it gets. You know what I mean? So it still holds up. So what is both of yours? One of yours, whichever one you feel first to come to your mind.
No, I'm still thinking. If you're ready,
I've got my two. If they need a second.
All right, I'll let Austin go.
Yeah, we'll come back to y'all. Okay, so I was thinking just about theatrical experiences in general, and some of my best ones that I've ever had. So and this works out perfectly because one is one example and one is the other. So the first time I saw Cloverfield, midnight show, I remember very distinctly went with my buddy to see a midnight show, and like locked in the theater, crazy surround sound, you know what I mean? And like the monster attacks start hitting, especially like the one where they're just walking on the street and all of a sudden the monster is there and they're shooting rockets at it and you're just like, holy shit, like fuck, what is going on? Like, god damn it. Like I remember just being like blown away. It was one of the best theatrical experiences I ever had. But then like it just don't work the same on a 40-inch TV with like no surround sound, you know what I mean?
Or
you
an audience.
Watch it. It's just or or an audience either, when the audience is just going like, holy shit, like what the fuck? But like on the counterpoint of that, I went to the midnight showing of The Cabin in the Woods. And boy, did that movie fucking play. Like, so much so that I am not exaggerating. I gave the movie a standing ovation in the theater. I swear to God. Like, after the finale was over and they hit the thing and the hand comes and the whole last 20 minutes of that movie. And so much so I went back the next night, watched it again in the theater, did the same thing, fucking had the same experience. It was awesome. Every time I watch it at home, that finale plays, and the end of it, I'm like, God damn, that's the best finale of any movie ever. It's so good.
You were Charles Foster Kane then.
Yeah. No, I literally was just like, I didn't give a shit what anybody thought.
If you guys didn't see the first episode, that was the analogy I used to describe Death Proof. On like, if you go into watching Cabin in the Woods without seeing a single horror movie, you don't give a shit about that movie. Like, you're confused. You're like, that's.
But if you love horror movies like I do, it's like the best thing ever.
So
it's
the fact that you just said that,
ever.
now I really want you to go rewatch Death Proof within the first chance
I
you
got
get. Like, now after
Sure.
you saying
I hate
that,
horror movies though, but I still love Cabin in the Woods for some reason. Like, I don't like horror movies, but I still
because it is a
Interesting.
good movie, but like, you really don't know why. You're like, oh, I enjoyed that because it's
right.
It's one of those.
But
where it's
when
like,
you watch it as a horror fan, you're like, oh my God, it's the tree from Evil Dead. Holy shit, there's gremlins. Holy shit, there's a killer clown. Holy shit, there's a uniform. There's a merman. There's a Hellraiser guy, like a guy with a puzzle box. There's a Hellraiser man. Like, there's there's all kinds of shit in that movie. Even the deleted stuff. There's stuff in the deleted scenes where they almost had a blob. For the blob, they almost had a tarantula.
I saw
all kinds of crazy
Screen Rant,
shit.
They did a 1-for-1 where it showed both
yeah.
versions, and that was when they showed the blob, I was like, really? But I didn't realize that was a deleted scene, so that's awesome. Carrie and Chad, you guys think of one yet?
Like, I have, like, I'm just ruminating around. Like, I have a lot of, like, unique kind of, I think, theater experiences.
Whatever makes a story, whatever comes, you're like, that's what the
story. I mean, we just have, like, some, but I don't think it connects to the, but I can't watch it at home.
That's fine. Just tell us the story.
Sucks now, kind of a deal. I mean, we have the Dark Knight showing that we saw. That was a midnight one.
Yeah. I mean, and that movie holds up.
But we had to wait for like hours.
We waited for we saw it opening night. We were like second in line. We're in the theater for like 4 hours, but it was a theater where they played like preview stuff beforehand for the whole 4 hours, and it was the same.
It was just Jason Mraz over and over.
One of the songs was a very annoying Jason Mraz.
That doesn't hold up.
That sounds like torture. But if you love the movie after going through that, then that's a testament of how great the movie is. The fact that you can.
I think another great one that was just like blew me away in the theater was probably Blade Runner 2049. It's another one with just like the best sound, cinematography. It's probably like the best thing you could see is like see that in like a Dolby or IMAX, like a really good IMAX.
Yeah. And that one I think holds up as well if you have a nice home setup.
I have such a unique experience with relationship with theaters where like people bother me quite a bit, so it's very easy for me to get it ruined.
Oh, like, I've literally thrown popcorn at people. I've literally gotten up and I've said some stuff. You would think I work there as much as I interact with people who are jerks.
I'm just so like nervous that it's gonna
I won't
make it worse.
Have you met me? I don't care. I will ruin it for everyone to make it better for myself.
So
shut your mouths and stop kicking the seats. I'll show you what's on the Seinfeld and Costanza.
We recently saw. I probably talked about this on the other one, but we recently saw Spencer, and we saw Spencer. Like, I love the movie, but like people, I guess a lot of people in there thought like, oh well, because this is such a weird movie, we're allowed to just talk now, just at normal volume. So we had to deal with that.
Do you guys live in an area where it's surrounded by like movie fans? Because I feel like for me,
not really.
I live in Northwest Indiana, where it's like, honestly, the reason. So fun fact: the reason I started my YouTube channel in the first place was one of two reasons. One, Force Awakens. Fuck you, Antonio. You don't like it. And then two
are the three.
yeah, barely. And then two is whenever I would talk to anyone on the street, whether it's a friend or a random stranger, like, hey, what's your favorite movie? One of two things. Oh, an Adam Sandler movie, which granted, I'm a huge Adam Sandler fan, but the fact that like your favorite movie, like, chill. And then, or it's like a Transformers or like a dad.
Well, if it's
or
Punch
Liam Neeson
Drunk
movie.
Love, then that's a pass. That's fine.
No, it's you could just tell it was like, oh, out of the 10 I've seen, sure, I'll pick this one. You know what I mean? It was like, so I started so I can like talk about film with people. So it's like one of those, whenever you hear about like bad theater experience, I'm always curious on like, what is like your community? Like, are you surrounded by film people and you just have like the one jerk, or is it like no one cares and it's like, oh my god, what was it?
Usually we only, it seems we're only with fellow film people if it's a very indie movie and there's not a lot of, like when we went and saw Pig, probably everyone.
But I mean, isn't Spencer also indie?
I think so, right?
Yeah, you would think actually that was surprising.
It's either indie or Twilight fans are like, oh, Kristen Stewart's in something else. Like, no, she's been in like 10 other things. Relax.
Yeah.
I would say, what was I? One, I think that was a much better theater experience for me, and I really enjoyed the theater experience, but I think reflecting on it, the movie wasn't great, was Rise of Skywalker, because it was a very
well, I mean,
that's talked about that.
Mine's breaking my heart, Fredo.
Sorry.
That's kind of often like what happens with like not great Star Wars movies, is it's like overwhelmingly great reaction initially, and then never mind.
It was really fun to go for all of the Star Wars movies I think that have come out recently. It's fun to go and be in the experience of seeing a Star Wars.
I gotta ask though, when you guys saw Rise of Skywalker at the end, did everybody in the theater groan when she said my last name is Skywalker?
I had the opposite. I was the only one groaning, folding his arms, and everybody else was like cheering. Like especially when Kylo and her like kissed, they were all just like, "Woo, yay!" And I was like, "What the fuck is wrong with y'all?" Like, no.
Why are you happy?
No, you fucking weirdos.
I literally watched my I don't want to call her adopted because we found her, but my female dog who's going through heat right now hump my boy dog, and it makes no sense. But A, they're related, and B, she's a girl and he's a boy, and she's doing the humping. So guess what? Cats and dogs, mass hysteria. Like shit happens. You know what I mean? Like you just accept it for what it is. That gives me a good question though. So what is a movie? Because we're talking about hype now. So I'm gonna start with Austin. What is a movie?
Right.
Whether it's like you're a franchise, director, actor, whatever. What is the movie where it's the most hype? But whether it's your own personal hype or just outside interference hype, that when you went in, you're like, that was not anything of what you guys said. So what is the first thing that comes to mind?
Besides Rise of Skywalker?
Last Jedi.
Last episode was titled Let's Talk Rocky. This one's Let's Talk Rise of Skywalker. No, something else.
Come back to me in a second. Wait, ask the question again. Hold on. I'm trying to make okay.
So what is a movie that is the biggest I can't think of the word, but like it's been affected the most by hype.
Oh, okay.
By hype and like you're let down,
whether it's fandom hype or just reaction hype. Whether it's like for example, it could be a random indie movie that like, or for example, Citizen Kane. Oh, Citizen Kane's the best movie of all time. You see it. Oh no, it's not. So not only do I not think it's the best movie, I kind of
I did have somewhat of that experience with actually Citizen Kane because I went to a repertory screening of Citizen Kane. I got to see it in a theater for the first time. I did watch it, and now without knowing the technical aspects behind all the innovative stuff he did at the time, and you don't have that context, like you kind of watch the movie and you're like, that's the movie everybody considers the greatest movie of all time. Like that ain't fucking Jaws. Like, sorry, like it's just not. So, but at the same time, when you don't have that context, like you were talking about with Death Proof and like Vanishing Point and all that, when you know the like the inspiration, or when you know the technicality behind Citizen Kane, like all the innovative stuff he did in that movie that we take for granted now, it puts it in a different context. I understand that. As far as the other thing goes.
Like I said, it could be something like
oddly enough, I got one. I went and saw Prometheus, in an IMAX theater, and so here's the thing: I am a huge fan of like Aliens is my favorite movie of all time. Period, bar none. It is my number one. It still is my number one.
Aliens, right?
Aliens, James Cameron, Aliens. Yes. Now, don't get me wrong. Nothing against Alien, Ridley Scott. I love that movie too. It just depends on what I'm in the mood for. But Aliens is my number one. I defend Alien 3. I like Alien Resurrection as a cult, silly movie. Okay, so I love the Alien franchise, top to bottom. Go into Prometheus, not knowing really what it's about, because even the trailers kind of kept it kind of vague. You didn't really know where it was going to go. You just kind of knew it was somehow connected to Alien. So I'm in the theater. Me and my buddy, we're in an IMAX screen, so a huge screen, surround sound. I'm locked in. The spaceship is going. They get to this planet. Oh, I'm so locked in. They're exploring. They're going in and out of the caves. What the fuck is gonna happen? Where is this movie going? It's some kind of alien thing's coming. I'm locked in, and then like it gets to the end, and like the only thing you ever see is like that weird goofy hybrid at the end, and it doesn't really connect. You see a little bit of the space jockey, and it's just like. All right, I'm deflated. You know what I mean? I was like I was so with it. I'm with it. I'm waiting. And then it's just like kind of a setup for another movie, like sort of. And like it didn't really go anywhere. Like it's like deflating a tire just ever so slightly. Like you're pumped up and just.
There's still hope. There's still hope
that you can blow it back up, but it's. And like I just remember looking at my buddy just being like. I liked the first like hour of that. I was locked in, but like, what happened? Did it go anywhere? I don't know. Like, what happened? And like, I love Alien so much that it's like, that really wasn't a point to that movie, was there?
The Aliens, the action movie mindset.
Sure.
Prometheus is not that. Like, I've only seen it the one time on a date.
Yeah.
I was like, I honestly do need to revisit it because, like, well, it was more of we were together. Whatever.
Okay.
Well, look. Like I'm more like I've gotten to a point where, especially now that we're talking about the director's cut first. Aliens is a great example of like I don't need the director's cut. Give me the theatrical. The director's
I don't need it either,
exactly.
And I think all the stuff in there is unnecessary. All
exactly. But that's a good example of like when it comes down to it, like, and also I don't need the directors for Alien either. But so the theatrical both versions. Mm-hmm. I'm still an Alien guy now, so it's like I really do want to revisit Prometheus. But with that said, it's like. It's not Aliens, so I definitely get where it's like if Aliens is your number one, Prometheus is not it. Alien Covenant, it's not Aliens. It's not on. It's the bath scene is really good, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Why did they go on a planet with no helmets on? Like
I got out of Alien Covenant, and I was like, can I get that Neil Blomkamp? Alien 3 now, the one that's supposed to follow aliens, and disregard everything else.
Random.
Yeah, can I have that now? Because Ridley Scott, you have no idea where the fuck you want to go with this franchise. Give it
direct
up, please.
The Last Duel. Leave Alien alone.
Yeah, go leave it alone and give it to somebody else, please, so we can do something with it. I'm done with this shit.
An example of, especially like I said, I don't like to harp on it, but the fact it's obvious you're like a geek related guy, so like I feel like this question should be easier for you, other than Rise of Skywalker or anything Star Wars related. God damn it! What is something that's like you go in with massive amount of hype, whether it's personal hype or outside hype? For whatever reason, what is something where it's like, damn, I kind of almost don't like that movie now because of what I was expecting?
I got two options, but I'll go with the most recent one. So because I'm such a diehard Christopher Nolan fan, and because my brother is also a diehard Christopher Nolan fan, we were both hyped up for Tenet.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking great! Oh my god, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. I was
it was just, oh my god, go ahead.
Yeah, all right. Well, I was excited, and then I saw it, and I was like, like I don't know. Maybe it's also I kind of felt that I needed to like gain some IQ points in order to understand it. Maybe I'm not bright enough to understand
I saw that movie in the middle of a pandemic in an empty 300-seat theater, locked in, paying attention, zero distractions, and I still felt like, Christopher Nolan, this may make sense to you, but I don't fucking get it. I don't know what the hell is going on, dude. I'm sorry. You need to explain something.
Right. I don't let anyone else usually influence me. Like my brother, like he fucking is a stan for Christopher Nolan. He thinks he can do no wrong. He thinks he should direct every movie in the MCU and DC, whatever. So when he saw this and he said it was a flop,
he's up his own ass.
My thing.
He's up his own ass now.
He would be honest and be like,
him and Denis Villeneuve.
Yeah, and I was like, oh, okay. So now I'm pretty sure this movie is like a flop. And he's like, wow, okay. because like he never says anything bad about Nolan. Like he loves every movie of his, and he's like, wow, this one actually was a flop. And I'm like, oh, okay. So that way I didn't feel that. Again, I have my own opinion, but that sort of solidified it for me that I was like, yeah, I'm not crazy for thinking that this was actually not like a stumble.
I mean, there were even kind of some weird like technical issues with Tenet, like the score was like overwriting the dialogue in that movie.
Yeah, it's worse than Bane. Dark Knight Rises.
What they're saying. No wonder you couldn't understand.
I mean, I guess Henry watched a different cut of the movie. I don't know.
I know, right? You got the unfinished cut.
Henry, you cannot tell me you understood everything that movie was going on the first time you watched it. You cannot honestly say that.
I will legit say at least 95%, and I feel like that is plenty.
You cannot tell me that climax you knew what the fuck was going on in that climax.
About 90% of that, yeah.
When shit's going, one team's going forwards, one team's going backwards. Like I didn't know who the fuck those people were. They came out of nowhere. Who's this team? Who's that team? Why are they joining? Who's these people? Who's that people?
Like I don't. Had a meeting beforehand. You're like, hey, oh my, that's fine. That's fine.
I thought it was
Chad
technically.
Chad and Carrie, yes, it was great technically.
Oh, Henry, don't get me wrong. I have the 4K sitting over there. I bought it. Like I buy everything.
Good.
But I mean, like
you whore for 4K?
Well, no, because I support physical media. That's why I don't want physical media to die. That's why I have over 2,000 movies. I support physical media. I don't want digital shit to take over. That's why.
I'm physical media all the way too, Austin. I'm right there with you. I've thought about this question. I thought of like semi-3 examples.
I don't even know what that means. Go ahead.
Two were
semi-3.
All are kind of geek related.
Pick one.
So, I'll go quick. One, there's been a big resurgence, it feels like, about everybody and their mother and father loving on the most recent Dread movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pause for a second, just for a second. I think it was last week. We were talking about underrated, and Dread came up, and I was like, honestly, this is one of the main examples where it's like it's so quote unquote underrated that it's becoming overrated because it's the first thing you think of for underrated. So go ahead. I literally just said this. I think last week. Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, I'm glad that a lot of people are saying like, you know what, that movie was great, freaking Dread, and they love it. But like we rewatched it, and I was like, all the action's in freaking slow motion. It's not even that badass of a movie. Like
Zack Snyder directed. I don't know. Like,
yeah, I love that. Can Zack Snyder direct Dread too? I'm down.
So there was that one, and then like
I'm a Zack Snyder guy. Whatever.
I don't know how everybody feels, but most recently, like my two theatrical movies, Eternals and Ghostbusters Afterlife. Like for both of those, I was kind of middle on. I hated Eternals, but I really liked Ghostbusters Afterlife. But for both, there are a lot of people are up here, and I'm like, the up here
who are
people.
You talking to the Eternals that are up there? Like I honestly like that. People are shitting on. I mean, if you're talking to like
critics,
people in your neighborhood,
I was disappointed by Eternals too. So yeah,
I'm talking about there's like a fan hype.
Twice. Like Ghostbusters, I think. I don't know. It's nostalgia done perfectly to me. So I really loved it. You know, I actually do put it up here.
I'm not a Ghostbusters guy. Like the first one, I don't think it's a bad movie, and I don't hate it. But like, it's good. You know what I mean? It is what it is. So it's like I'm not rushing out to see it. So like everything that I'm seeing about Afterlife, where it's like, if you're a Ghostbusters stan, you're gonna love this movie. If you're not, then you're gonna think it's over the top and in your face. And it's like that's fine. You know what I mean? Whatever. Whereas as Eternals, it's one of those where it's like. I honestly don't understand. I don't know how to read the reactions for Eternals because everything I see, it's like I feel like people are just like it's very muddled on people's reactions. I'm literally the definition of like mid, like how I feel about it. But like when I'm hearing other people's, like I feel like people are like, do I want to love it? I don't know. Do I want to hate it? I don't know. Like I feel like people are confused on it.
If you're an MCU fan, you're supposed to hate it. If you're just a movie fan who just loves how stuff is made, then you should love it.
And that's dumb to me. Like judge film and like, you know, artistic mediums in general on just what you're presented with, not expect. That's honestly, that's why I brought up this question of like, there's so much like the concept of expectations and hype and all that stuff where it skews how you view and feel about film or even TV, as you know, like Squid Game is a good. I finally watched it. It was overhyped, but like I really liked it. You know what I mean? But it's like it could have been the definition of overhyped for me. So I'm glad. Thank God it.
I had the same thing with Squid Game in that I posted something and people were kind of confused. I was like, the people who are shocked and awed by Squid Game have never watched any piece of Asian cinema ever, because it's like middle, you know what I mean? Like you've never seen fucking Old Boy, you've never seen Battle Royale, you ain't never seen Audition, like you ain't seen shit if you think Squid Game is like
it's
shocking.
A good version of that, you know what I mean?
You know
so
what I mean? Well, no, I understand, but if you've never seen Asian cinema and Squid Game is, oh my god, it's shocking. What is this? Like you haven't seen shit.
Let's set the record straight. Most of those people watch it with the English dub. So let's be clear.
Yeah, I know. Who don't watch subtitles? I watch movies in English with subtitles. Like I watch subtitles all the time, anyways. So like I don't care about
rewatch Tenet, motherfucker, and you'll understand everything.
Maybe I'll understand with subtitles. I haven't pulled it out yet. I need the subtitles.
Carrie, do you have anything that is honestly, I'm still figuring out like what you enjoy, because like your highlights
horror movie.
Your highlight of the internet is horror. Yeah, I was gonna say
horror movies.
It was the horror tagline thing, but it's like, was that just because you studied? Was that because you love it?
I studied. Yeah,
I know. I didn't want to point it out, but
Winchester or Conjuring 3.
Okay, so my overhyped movie though is
Winchester Dogwater. Oh boy,
it was both underhyped and like negative hyped, but I feel like there was so many people telling me how I should feel about it, and it was Malignant.
I was about to guess that. Oh my god.
There was like a whole week before I think we could actually sit down and watch it.
At home or in theater? I'm just curious.
At home. We watched it at home because it was literally opposite ends of the spectrum, with people saying they hated it, people saying they loved it so much, and if you hated it, you don't understand horror. You don't understand campy horror. And I feel like people put it into my brain so much how I was supposed to feel about it that I didn't even really and I thought it was fine, but I was like, I don't know how to feel about this because I think I've just heard way too much about this movie. It's not spoilers, but
without going into spoilers, so you said you watch home with both of you together or by yourself?
Yeah, we watched it.
Okay, so the third act, once again, without going to spoilers, the jail scene. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that, even at home?
My favorite part.
That was
really?
I think the best part.
I love that.
Okay. No, that is the right answer. But I was just double checking that you still felt that at home. You know what I mean? Because it's like, imagine watching that in theater with other people. You're like, I want to fuck people up. You know what I mean? Like it gets you. So I was just curious. Like,
was there ever a part though where you guys just ended up bursting out laughing though? Like, because
kind of. I love campy shit like that. Though.
Okay. Right.
I think the reveals, the physical reveals.
I don't know this for sure, because nothing's ever for sure, because James Wan himself didn't say this, but like I've heard that James Wan wanted to make a B movie essentially.
Yeah.
But like with A level backing and money and direction, you know what I mean? So it's like anything that Antonio just said, like the campiness, the horror, the jokingness, like that's intentional. You know what I mean? That's the love. Essentially, what I was talking about, like the Cabin in the Woods thing. If you're not a horror fan and you don't love that type of stuff going in, you're not going to accept it. So it's like, honestly, those are the only people that I feel that diss it.
Malignant is a great example of what we were talking about previous episode, Henry, of a blank check movie. Because he made Aquaman, and Aquaman made $1 billion, and then nobody thought that movie was going to make $1 billion. So you get an open check to make whatever crazy fucked up movie you want to make. We'll give you $10 million to make whatever goofy horror movie you want to make. And whatever shit comes out of your brain.
No edits. We're not going to have a writing.
Nope. You can have final cut. We'll put it out. Do whatever you want to do because you made us $1 billion on the fish guy who nobody thought was going to make $1 billion. So have at it. Have fun. Oh my There's a blank check movie right there. Aquaman to Malignant.
So I'm going to bounce back over the routes. I'm going to stick with Chad and Carrie. What is a movie that is the first thing that comes to your mind where it's like, are you familiar with the concept of like a blank check when you think of a director where like they had?
I listened to the Blank Check podcast.
Boom! That Austin.
Oh yeah. See, I said the same thing. The Blank Check podcast.
Now I need to check it out. I honestly never even heard of it.
It's hilarious. Holy shit!
It's great.
Watch the Star Wars ones at the beginning. So good.
God.
Oh, Antonio will check it out. But what is the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of like because we were talking about like Tarantino earlier, even Scorsese a little bit, where it's like their resume in Nolan, their resume like talks for itself. Where it's like at that point, like, or honestly, even Edgar Wright now with Last Night in Soho is another one where it's like their resume backed it up so much where it's like no one's really going to question them as a director, as a filmmaker. Where it's like someone needed to kind of like bring them back a little bit. And honestly, you can use any of those directors I just said as an example, but like, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
The first thing that comes to my mind, both because of Avengers Age of Ultron, but also the Buffy comics, is Joss Whedon.
Okay.
Because if you guys don't know anything about Buffy, after Buffy ended, they did a comic book series. And I've only read the synopsis of the comic book series. And it is just, they gave Joss Whedon free reign to do whatever he wanted. And it is some wild shit. And I think a similar thing happened, it seems like, with Age of Ultron. I don't know. Maybe that's not actually the case.
And there were a lot of studio interference. I think,
yeah, I guess
so. That is definitely another topic, but the studio interference is one of those where there's a million movies we could talk about. It's like, oh, fuck. I mean, he was hinted at earlier where he's a fan of Alien 3. It's like, should you be though? Because of studio interference. But
and people wonder why I'm a fan of Alien 3 if I love Aliens so much, and what Alien 3 does in the first 5 minutes to the characters that I love from Aliens. I understand that. Well, no, I understand, but if I can get past that, and then I watched the extended, and we were talking about director's cuts and extended cuts. If I watched the work print kind of extended version of that movie of what the original intent and vision of that movie was, I can get into the atmosphere of that movie. I can get into the vibe of it, and I can enjoy it once I get past how it kind of treats those aliens characters. You know what I mean? I'm just a defender of it on that level, but while acknowledging that it's not the greatest thing, I can fully acknowledge that.
That's actually fun you said that, because it kind of is the opposite of the coin of what we were just talking about of the hype. If you can get over that hype, Alien 3 for you is a good example of that.
It works. That
honestly might be the next question, depending on where Chad is. I feel like his thinking face. It looks like he's pooping. He's trying to think so hard. Do you have an example yet, or do I need to come up with another?
Yeah, and really not sure.
That's fine. Hey, I'm not gonna force it. It was just one of those where it's like it was kind of we talked about.
Can I comment about a movie where I hated it the first time I saw it theatrically, went back and saw it again, and had a different perception of it after I'd seen it?
Like I said, I legit might have a top 10 of this. So go ahead.
But here's the thing. But this had more to do with mismarketing, which is a whole another topic we could talk about, mismarketing in movies. But it plays into expectations, because when I first saw the trailers to Kick-Ass back in 2010, and they marketed that movie as like a slapstick, like goofy buddy movie, you know what I mean? Like this kind of superhero silly comedy. But then you go see the movie and it gets very dark at the end. You know what I mean? It gets very violent, very dark. Like Nick Cage is being set on fire. Like they're beating the shit out of these kids. Like there's murder. There's gangsters murdering people. Like it gets very, very dark. But it was marketed as this like almost like Seth Rogen wasn't in it, but like a Seth Rogen comedy, or like a Pineapple Express or something. You know what I mean? Like it was marketed as like this goofy super bad with superheroes, kind of a thing. And so like I saw the movie the first time and I hated it. Like I was like, what did I just watch? Like where did that movie go? But then when I went back, I had a buddy who wanted to see it, so I went back with him to see it, and knowing where it goes and seeing how it kind of gets there, I fully appreciate it. And now it's like one of my top 100 favorite movies of all time. Like I love Kick-Ass. So like it's one of those movies where then I had to know where it goes and put those the mismanagement, I guess, of the expectations aside, like going into it.
So that is actually a fun one. So Antonio, this doesn't just have to be movie theater specific. It could be just of where expectations steered you wrong, whether it could be trailers, hype, etc. You went into a movie expecting one thing, you didn't get that. You revisit it with a different set of goggles or the right perspective, and your perspective completely 180'd. Antonio, do you have something that comes to your mind where it's like, wow, I really misjudged that the first time. This movie is a banger.
Wow.
Or Chad, whoever comes first.
Yeah, you might have to come back to me on that one.
I mean, yeah, I actually wanted to bring this up the last time I was on, and I brought up Jennifer's Body, which I still really, really love that movie now. But it's the freaking Twilight movies. I watched. So here's the backstory. Kevin Foss put on Twilight on the Wheel for trivia. And so I was like, all right, let's study the shit out of this so it's not a strength of theirs anymore.
Breaking Dawn Part 2 is a banger. I'm not gonna lie.
And yeah,
I saw that movie. I saw that movie drunk as shit with my ex-wife while I bought a ticket for her, and I was drinking. And boy, did I have a good time with that one.
That's what I'm saying.
I was about 6 beers in.
For better or for worse, that movie fucking slaps. But keep going, Jim.
When I was and am still a huge Harry Potter fan, and back in the day, it just kind of, even though they're not really the same at all, it just seemed like there was this big wave of Twilight, and I was like, no, only Harry Potter when I was a kid. So
it's like being a skater boy and a BMXer. You're like, you could have both. Like, let's be real. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
But that was kind of, as a dumb kid, I was like, nope, Twilight sucks. I hate it.
And also as a boy, but yeah.
Sure. And then when it came around for this, I was like, all right, let's finally watch it. Let's see what the hype is about, because there's a lot of people who still really love those movies.
Really?
And I watched the first one, and I was like, okay, well, this is also after I love Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart just as actors today.
That helps.
And so, like, going back into it now, I'm like, all right, I think this might be a little underrated. And then one thing that sold me, if no one knows, I'm a huge Radiohead fan, and it ends with the song from In Rainbows. And I was like, okay, they sold me. All you have to do is put a Radiohead song in something,
sometimes
and I'm going to
it's a little shit. Okay. Now, once again, that's how the show works. What is a musical cue? The most random musical cue that, like, I love that song, and it's like not really a great movie, but it kind of like it hits home where it's like it's the first thing that. Or here's a better way to rephrase this. Ironically, what is one of the first movies you think of from a song, but it's like you really shouldn't because the movie sucks or it doesn't match or whatever, where it's like, obviously I don't know the name of the song, but like
I've had songs that ruined movies for me because I have to hear them at work every day. So I've had that. So I it's kind of related, but so the song in the Huey Lewis song, the Hip to Be Square song, right? That's featured in American Psycho.
I just rewatched that movie, so yes, I know that song.
So I have to hear that song every day at work because they don't change the fucking playlist. So I hear the same 8 hours of music every day at my grocery store. So I go back and watch American Psycho literally 2 or 3 months ago. I bought the 4K. I hadn't seen it in years. And I had forgotten that's the song they play. And I was like, oh no. This is such a good scene, but fucking I hate that song. It burned it into my brain. It kills me. Because it's a great scene in the movie. It's fucking fantastic when he's doing his monologue about Huey Lewis, and it's a pivotal scene in the movie. But my work outside of it has ruined that fucking song independently. So yeah, I don't know. It might be off topic, but it's kind of related.
I have something potentially.
Go ahead.
I have the movie is, I think, bad. I only saw it once, but it had
it's bad.
It had one, but I haven't seen it in a long time, and I think even if it was bad then, it probably doesn't hold up now either. Even more. But the one moment from this movie that's brilliant with the song that me and my buddy still all the time refer to, it's kind of like our little inside joke now, is 1,000 Miles from White Chicks. You guys remember that part?
Hold on, before we start, White Chicks is a movie if I watch it today, I honestly do not know how I'd feel about it, but my memory of it, pretty good.
Okay. Well,
I would say look up the scene because it's actually
no. The scene I know 100%, but I'm talking about as a whole.
It's like a GIF.
Yeah, but as a whole, it's pretty good. So it's when you think of that memory, it's that song.
I've got an example of the best use of a song that made me a fan of the group in a movie that's so perfect and out of nowhere, but it fits with the rest of the movie. So you know how Office Space has out of nowhere a gangster rap soundtrack with all these white guys? Okay.
Gangster,
So, and when they get to the scene where they start fucking up the fax machine or the printer or whatever it is, and it's still by the Ghetto Boys, I have became a Ghetto Boys fan for life. I know that song by heart. I could rap it right now in front of all of you, and it's a perfect musical cue that comes out of nowhere. Like it literally, it cuts to them in the field.
That movie is just amazing. I love
oh,
that
but like the fact that it's all these white office dudes, like white bread, nothing, and the main guy in the opening scene is rapping Scarface, and like the whole thing just has a Ghetto Boys soundtrack is one of the most brilliant touches I think of that movie. That it's not this like just a score or just some generic alternative music. That it has this hardcore gangster rap soundtrack. I think is quite brilliant in that movie. Actually, kind of a nice turn.
I think I got an example of the same thing too. Where like I
die motherfucker still.
I'll be honest, I've never seen Office Space. But anyway.
You have to see it.
I know I gotta see it. But no, so yeah, I heard the song in the movie. I didn't know who sang it at the time. I was like, I think I was like 12 when this movie came out, and I heard the song and I wanted to download it automatically, and it still is my favorite song by this band, and I love the band now, obviously. So do you guys remember that scene in Shaun of the Dead where like all the zombies are surrounding the bar, Queen. And then the jukebox comes on, and it's obviously "Don't Stop Me Now."
Don't Stop Me Now. That's literally my favorite Queen song.
That's now my still is my
introduced you to Queen. That's so cool.
Yeah, and I'm like
if I'm in the gym listening "Don't Stop Me Now," I'm like, yeah, you.
Don't
stop me now, bitch.
It's like an awesome song to kill zombies too. Also, like just it's been used a lot recently, like in Sonic the Hedgehog and Shazam. Yeah. But like that's the first time I got exposed to it, and like I became a bigger fan of Queen, and that's still my favorite Queen song. And I felt like it just made it just more.
I think that movie actually kind of caused a resurgence for that song.
Yeah,
it wasn't a very popular song before.
So underrated. Like even in the Queen movie, they played at the end, but it was just a live action. Like I wish that was a song that they actually reenacted for the movie.
Like, or you can have a good montage for like that. Like sometimes you just need to know.
That is a good montage song.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like that's a song that you over.
That's what they did with Shazam. Shazam was like a montage of his powers, and
exactly. You know what I mean? And it's like I feel like that's a missed opportunity. That would have a lot of people had that debate of like, oh, Bohemian Rhapsody's trash, which I liked it. I only watched it the one time, but I really liked it in theater. I need to revisit it so I can really say, but like. Obviously, you end on the Live Aid, so it's like it's a banger, but also like Live Aid itself was a banger. So it's like, is that the movie? Is that whatever? But anyway,
it just makes me want to go on YouTube and watch the actual Live Aid concert.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like,
which is amazing, like the 45-minute set.
It's essentially a reenactment, but that's what you end on. So like for me personally, I ended on a high note, so I really liked it. But also, it's like I said, it's the debate between that and Rocket Man, where it's like Rocket Man has enough moments within the movie that like people like riff on it like it's a musical, but it's like it's a musical, but that's what makes it memorable because it uses the musical to bob and weave of the narrative, whereas Bohemian Rhapsody doesn't. So it's like I feel like Don't Stop Me Now would have been a good opportunity to have a scene like that where it's like it did something, you know what I mean? So that would have been a good cue. Carrie, do you have a song in general? The first song that comes to your mind when you think of a movie? I guess that's a good way to.
Oh, that was the question.
It was that, but then he added, but it's a terrible movie.
Well, yeah. So whatever one works for you.
I was gonna say Tiny Dancer and Almost Famous. And
that's a great one.
But it's a terrible movie. I was like, well, then that's not Almost Famous.
It's a terrible movie.
Don't get us a bunch of dislikes saying Almost Famous is terrible.
I love Almost Famous.
I do too. I just rewatched it.
I have one other example of Carrie. I have one other example of a song that's become one of my favorites because of a movie. But if not,
Carrie, you ready, or do you want Austin to go?
Go, Austin.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so one of my favorite songs right now, and it has been for the last couple of years, is "The Kids Are Back" by what's his name? God damn it! They're in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. The fucking band.
Twisted Sister?
The kids, Twisted Sister, yeah. The Kids Are Back by Twisted Sister. The kids are back. The kids are back. Anyways, it's used to perfection in the opening credits of Jackass 3D, and it became one of my favorite songs of all time because of the way they use it. Like,
is anyone excited for the new Jackass movie? Like that actually?
Yes, I'm a massive Jackass and all Jackass. I'm a massive Jackass, and I'm also a massive Jackass fan of anything Jackass-related properties as well, like Viva La Bam, Wild Boys, you name it. It's all my favorite shit.
I don't know.
I love it.
Like,
I can't get it up.
Like that could be the perfect example of like nostalgia, or is like what I was kind of talking about earlier. Where it's like you watching it, but like as you're watching it like through the eyes of who you were when you first saw it.
Yeah.
Like when I see the trailers of Jackass, I'm like, I don't want to like this, but it's like I kind of want to like this.
It's fucking great. I've seen every one of those movies with my dad in the theater. No joke. We have a great time. It's become like a tradition. Like the first 3 movies, it somehow became a thing where I worked at the theater when the first one came out. I worked in a movie theater. So I got tickets for free. So I was just like, hey, do you want to come see the Jackass movie? And like, we laughed our asses off. And the second one came out. I was like, hey, we kind of did it with the first one. You want to come to the second one? We laughed our asses off. Same thing for that. It's okay. But like, boy, does that ending fall fucking flat at the end. Holy shit. Like, with the biker gang or whatever, it goes nowhere. Boy, does that fall flat. Anyways, that's a whole nother thing. But Back Grandpa, it's more of a prank movies. I enjoy the physical shit more than the prank stuff.
Did you think of a song? If not, I have one.
The first one I thought of, and
I have another one too.
Great song, although I do think it's a pretty good movie. Is All Star and Shrek. I think that's a great.
Okay, fair enough.
It's low key kind of random, so it's like even though it's like it's not a bad movie, but it's so random that it's a good example. Go ahead.
That's like the anthem for that movie. Though.
It is.
Yeah.
But nowadays, but imagine at the time where you're like, what the fuck? Like,
I mean, I enjoyed it as a child. I was like, oh, I'm really into this.
And then they have that at the end of Rat Race too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is kind
of early 2000s, baby. The welcome.
Oh, you gotta love it. The opening credits of Zombieland to Metallica's "For Whom the Bell Tolls" is one of the best uses of that song ever. Fucking fantastic! The best opening credit sequence ever. And Bob Dylan and Watchmen. Bob Dylan's "Times They Are Changing." Great opening credit sequence as well, and a great song.
I'd never heard that song separately, but I am a huge. Let's put it this way. How do I keep this PG? I fucking hate Watchmen, so it's like I hate that movie, but like that scene is memorable.
That credit sequence is great. That credit sequence is, you gotta admit, is awesome.
You know what I'm saying?
Hallelujah, so it's pretty good too. But I mean, it's a different.
Hallelujah.
I mean, I don't know if you know the scene I'm talking about, but it's a very
because you're a pervert fucker. That's the worst scene. Before Chad, you're next. That is the definition of a fucking the ultimate cut. What that has nothing to do with anything. All that fucking comic book stuff. Like, that is the opening of Saw 7 for the entire Watchmen. It has nothing.
No, I watched the director's cut that doesn't have any of the.
No, I'm talking about the ultimate cut with the comic shit.
No, I know what you're talking about. I don't watch that cut. I watched the 3-hour director's cut without the animated stuff.
Don't.
That's the one I watched.
Well, first of all, don't watch it at all. But if you're gonna watch it, don't watch it.
I like Watchmen. But I'm a Zack Snyder guy. I told you that. I'm a Zack Snyder guy.
Chad, what was your hand up for? I have one too, so I want to keep on the song thing. I have one, but go ahead, Chad.
Yeah, it's the song thing. I thought of one. It's a brilliant song from like one of the greatest albums ever made, and the movie I thought was terrible. I go into this movie. I've already talked about this earlier. I go into this movie. I'm kind of hyped because I know that it's divisive. And I usually fall on the side of liking the divisive movies. Last Jedi, I love it. But this was Eternals, and they almost kind of start it with Pink Floyd's Time. And I'm like,
that's what it was.
And I was like looking over at Carrie, and I was like singing it and tapping my foot, and like, yeah, dude. And then the rest of the time, I'm like this, like.
See, I think the issue was you went into that movie with very high expectations.
Yeah.
I went with zero expectations.
I'm telling you, expectations are a motherfucker in this community, dude.
Don't you think it was too long? Also, it was like really
very long. Way too many characters. Very long. There's a lot with it.
We anything MCU or geek related, you could go onto a tangent. So mine's not a bad movie. It's in my top 100. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. But like, it's just so like. It's kind of what Austin was talking about earlier because I used to work at a restaurant as a server where it was round the clock. I don't know where you guys from if you have any of those, but it played like 50s music all the time. So Lollipop is a song that played all the time there. But whenever I listen to it in Stand By Me, it's still dun, 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 you know what I mean? It's like Lollipop, you know what I mean? I don't care how many times I hear it where it never gets old because it's one of those. It's like it's you know, as soon as you just close your eyes and like you're 12 years old, you never had friends like back when you were 12. You know what I mean? It's like it's timeless. So it's like it's the
Speaking of the MCU, How about Redbone's "Come and Get Your Love" at the beginning of Guardians of the Galaxy becoming a phenomenon because of that movie? Yeah. How about Everybody Loves That Song now? When before that movie, nobody knew what the hell that song was in general. You know what I mean?
It's even better in Endgame when he's singing it without the music and he's just singing, "Come and get you."
Yeah.
When you actually hear what he really sounds like, hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, that's how you have some fun with like, oh my god. So that's a good. No, this last thing with songs. I swear to God, we're gonna go on to some random. So one thing of like like I talked about earlier with like the Scorsese. When you think of a song, like what is the first song when you think of a popular song? What is the first movie that comes to mind? It could be Tiny Dancer or Almost Famous. Even if you want to actually elaborate a little more, but like when you think of a song, what is the first thing that comes to your mind? To like, no doubt, you hear the song, you don't even think of the band, you just think of a movie where it's like clockwork. That's the. They're just connected. For me, I'll just go with Mrs. Robinson. Obviously, it was written for it, or it was one of. I think I just watched on the Top 10 show. They were talking about Simon and Garfunkel, and they had other songs, and then they wrote Mrs. Robinson for it because they had something similar, and they're like, hey, tweak this a little bit. But it's like when you think of that, like you don't. I don't think Simon Garfunkel. I think of The Graduate, where it's like. You think of, are you looking at me, when she gets naked and all that stuff. It's like one of those, are you trying to seduce me? You know what I mean? It's like, that's the thing where it's like, it's, I don't know. It puts you in that zone and in that mindset of that movie. And it's like, I love The Graduate, but when you think of you, Mrs. Robinson, like you think of Sound of Silence, like you can think of that in like other, aspects of life, but like Mrs. Robinson, you know what I mean? It's like, obviously, the character's name, but whatever. But it's like one of those where it's like, no doubt, hands down, like it's so catchy and memorable and like its own thing, but like that's the movie. So it's like, that's one of the first ones that comes to my mind when I think of a song where it's like, that's what I think of. And Austin, do you have one?
I mean, I kind of already said it. Every time I hear For Whom the Bell Tolls, I immediately go to the opening Zombieland, but that's like just because it's what made me.
Really?
No, I mean it really is. Like, well, I wasn't a fan of. I'm not saying I wasn't a fan, but like I wasn't big on Metallica before that, and then like that was like my end. Like other than Enter Sandman, because everybody knows Enter Sandman, but like I kind of jumped into it. But I mean. I don't know. Come back to me on this one if anybody else has something. I'll think of another one. But yeah.
I think I got one, but it's not.
Okay.
I had a cliche response, but now I think I want to go with something a little bit more obscure.
Okay.
So every time I think of the song "I Will Survive," I think of The Replacements. Because
I still need to see this movie. It's been brought up so much in the last
You haven't
month.
seen The Replacements? Oh my god! Wow, man! But just that scene alone will be enough to like get you dying laughing because it's just too much. How you would think it's so out of place because there's a bunch of football players. I won't even spoil it for you, but it's just they're like it's almost like a little bit of a dance number, and it's just enough. And it's also a very underrated sports movie. It's not great. I'm just saying it's very underrated. And
like what I've heard, it's one of those movies where like if you know what you're like, take expectations. Like you're not expecting, Remember the Titans, Rudy, like a serious level. Like if you're not expecting that, or if you're looking for like the major league football movies, it's along those lines.
And also, it has probably like one of the worst editing jobs I've ever seen, but I still ignore it. I just laugh at it, but like it's still a great movie no matter what. But you will notice how funny the editing is. Like they actually how do they not fix this? Like that's how kind of bad it is at times.
Because they don't need to. I think Chad, you're ready, but just because I kind of hints at it earlier, Remember the Titans, Ain't No Mountain High. That's one of the ones where it's like I just I think of that song where I'm like, I'm just thinking of them on the bus, like Rev just started up, and then Ethan Suplee where he's just like, I'm in it. You know what I mean? It's one of those where it's like it's the camaraderie, you know what I mean? It's like that's why I love that movie, for scenes like that. So it really
every time I hear Aerosmith's Dude Looks Like a Lady, I think of the montage from Mrs. Doubtfire when he's like playing the guitar and cleaning the house and he's like biting the broom with his teeth and he's like he's throwing the vacuum around and pretending like it's a microphone stand. Like it's actually every time I hear it I think of that movie. So I know it's random, but yeah.
Mrs. Doubtfire is I'm still giving Chad and Carrie a chance to think. Mrs. Doubtfire is a perfect example of a movie where it's like, okay, so I'll be quick. Miss Doubtfire is a perfect example of like when I think of like my top 100 was like I just haven't seen it enough because I saw it late within the last 2 years. But it's like fuck, I love that movie. You know what I mean? It's like one of those where the Goonies was the same way for me, where it's like when I watched it, I was expecting it to be like generic and like nostalgia goggles, like where it's like, but like no, the movie freaking slaps. You know what I mean? It's a good movie.
Yeah,
you know, it's good. You know what I mean? So it's like Mrs. Doubtfire and Goonies are two of the movies where I'm like, oh, I just thought that was gonna be like, oh yeah, if you didn't grow up Oz, you're not gonna like it. I'm like, no, the movie's awesome. So it's like it's one of those, and then it's got James Bond in it, so that also helps, and it's got Forrest Gump's mother. You know what I mean? Like making love, you know what I mean? So that also helps. So but anyway, that's one of those where it's like kind of the expectations where I expect that to be like overhyped and nostalgia, but like, no, that was awesome. So Chad, you have a music one now.
Well, I mean, I will reiterate that I think Tiny Dancer really sells that movie in Almost Famous.
But with all that, the chorus, you expect it to be a lot sooner. It really is. Every time everyone wants to start singing it a lot sooner. Go ahead.
But I think the other thing, it's Mad World from Donnie Darko.
Oh,
yeah,
that's a good one.
Always makes me think. I mean, yeah, they redid it for that movie, and that movie's just amazing.
I think Donnie Darko's another good example of a movie where it's like I just haven't seen enough, but god damn, that movie is.
How about Where Is My Mind for Fight Club? Every time I hear that song, I think about the end of Fight Club.
I don't think I've ever heard the song otherwise.
No, it's at the end. There's a cover version at the end of near the end of Observe and Report. Also, when he's chasing the streaker through the mall, they play another version of it. There's it's called like a band called like Wolf Creek or something like that, whatever it's called. But it's a cover, but they played the same song, and I associate that with that too. It's a nice little run.
Like what about Eye of the Tiger? Rocky 3.
Yeah, like that was the last episode. That was one of the things where I talked about, like where it just jumped right into that movie.
Or how about Living in America for Rocky 4? You hear Living in America, and you think about Apollo's entrance from Rocky 4. Like
okay, no. I want to keep on the musical things. Scores. When you think of like
I don't have
no, Carrie, I don't want to skip you.
I put a spell on you.
Okay.
Yeah, that scene.
I still haven't seen it.
Shit.
So
next Halloween.
It's no.
Well, he can watch it before the sequel comes out.
Yeah,
wait till the sequel comes out and double feature it. Yeah.
You're talking about that fake posters that people have been making for the last 10 years.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah. No, they're actually there's real set pictures. It's actually happening.
I know, but it's one of the that's like one of like you could honestly make a top 10 list of like the top 10 most faked out, sequel movies where it's like it's just been fanfic for the longest. So scores. So we're just talking about music now. We're having a lot of fun with it.
I love scores.
When you think of what is, so I'll start with Carrie because we'll flip back over round table style. When you think of any movie, the score where it's like that is, for example, like I have like 3 right now that have as like an alarm tone, ringtone, however you want to describe it, where it's like I hear them every day, don't get sick and tired of them, but they're synonymous with the movie where it's like boom. It could be a franchise. It could be the cliche, the Jaws, the Raiders, you know what I mean, the Star Wars. It could, Halloween, you know what I mean? It could be the cliche ones, and that's fine. There's no wrong answers. But it's like, what is the first one that comes to your mind where it's like, scores, boom, that's the one.
Yeah, it is cliche. It is Halloween. And
Yeah.
I jam out to that.
Get you fucking hyped no matter what, son.
Fun fact: the score of Halloween makes me want to put in my top 100 alone because it's like I love it so much. So I want to go kill someone right now just thinking about it. Chad, what is the first score that comes to your mind, regardless of whatever reason? Because you think about it multiple times, you hum it, it's a ringtone, whatever.
I mean, you put a gun to my head. Obviously, it's gonna be obvious. It's probably gonna be Harry Potter.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. That's not like a bad one. It's like, would you say gun to your head? That's not the first one I would have thought. Like, I know you're a Harry Potter guy. Don't get me wrong, but it's like out of scores, like wow, like the John Williams initial one from like
all that. And I think another thing is because it's so similar to the Home Alone one. It's kind of
John Williams, you're getting lazy on us, guys. Apparently, hashtag Chad said it. Antonio, as maybe the MCU guy, what is the first one that comes to your mind?
I actually wanted to go to a regular movie, but no. Okay, I'll pick
regular movie. What the fuck does that mean? Go ahead.
Like not geek related, but
I know. Just kidding.
Okay, I'm gonna go specific scene because when it comes to I was gonna go Star Wars actually, but I'm gonna go specific scene. So that one, I guess, arrangement and right before an Empire Strikes Back, when Han Solo is about to get frozen and he says he says I know.
Okay.
Just like that little part right there, and then also the whole chase throughout the whole Cloud City, that arrangement right there, and obviously the asteroid field. But you're saying which do I like honestly love to like just sometimes hum, and I actually have it on my iPod. Is that like I guess the whole back half of Empire Strikes Back?
Okay.
They're just all John Williams. That's all you're getting from us.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right, awesome.
No, I've got something completely different you would never think of. This is a score that I jam out to a lot. That gets a lot of rotation. Steve Jablonsky's score for the original Transformers is awesome. Nice. Awesome. It like will get you hyped. It's way better than it has any right to be for the movie that it's for. It's if you just I'm not talking. Put the movie out of your head. If you pull it up on Spotify, listen to the Autobots track, the Arrival to Earth track, all these other the tracks are bangers. They are
07, right? 07 Transformers.
No, the anime.
What? No. The Michael Bay, the 2007.
You did saying 07.
Oh, really? Yeah. Steve Jablonsky's Transformer score.
All right.
I'm saying, put the movies out of your head. Go on Spotify tonight. Pull up the Transformer score by Steve Jablonsky. Every track is a banger. It's so underrated. Like I just listen to it in the car like all the time while I'm driving around. I've listened to it so many times I can't even count. Like it's great. I'd play it for you right now if like I could without us getting kicked off of YouTube. But yeah,
I'm just starting to get more of like a scores guy where I kind of listen to scores like on rather than music, like popular music.
Because that's the fun thing about scores is like because it's just like essentially humming, so you can like hear it and still have your own thoughts and get lost in your own world. I have I'm gonna cheat. Fuck it, I don't care. I'm gonna cheat. I have 4. The True Romance score.
Like, I was just watching that movie the other day. Yeah,
like the True Romance score. That like it just like it's what is that? Xylophones, where it's like you know what I mean?
Yeah, Hans Zimmer.
Yeah, Hans Zimmer. Exactly. It's just so random, so unique.
That Hans Zimmer's did that True Romance steel drum score. Yeah, that's him.
It's so unique that you don't hear it. My most obvious one, which like out of this panel, I'm not saying like, but like we picked a lot of geek stuff. So like out of this panel, it's not the most obvious, but the Good, Bad, and the Ugly, where it's like it's the most famous out of all of them. Where it's like
Near Marconi.
Yeah, that's boom.
I prefer For a Few Dollars More. That's the best movie.
Score or movie?
Both.
Wrong. It doesn't matter. Wrong. But anyways, that's the one. My most underrated, and the Rocky, because we talked about that earlier. Obviously, that's my favorite franchise, favorite character. Like dun, 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 you know what I mean? It's just that's my. But my most underrated of all time score, Escape from New York. That is like a score where it's just dun. Dun, 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 dun. Like it's just like I love the synth, like the John Carpenter synth. Everything you hear from is like everything. But like this is the one where it's just the most melodic. It like you can literally like make a song to it. You know what I mean? But it's like out of all of his movies, it's mid tier at best for most people. You know what I mean? Like even if you love the movie, it's still mid tier because if you love Escape from New York, you love the rest of them, so you're gonna put them higher up. So it's kind of forgotten.
Can I recommend a fun experience to do? Yeah. Download the Interstellar score from Hans Zimmer and walk through Mammoth Caves in Kentucky. It's really fun.
I was gonna say,
which is what I did.
Jesus Christ!
I did that 2 months ago. I was going around Kentucky on a road trip. They have these things called the Mammoth Caverns. They're these complete huge underground, cavern cave kind of things. They're like 100 feet high. All these caverns that they didn't carve out themselves. They're just natural things you can walk through. I downloaded because you get no reception down there. Obviously, I downloaded on my phone and played the Interstellar. That sort of organ score while you're walking through the caves. It's like tripping on acid. It's fucking fantastic.
That's awesome.
This is what the round table's all about, Henry. I bring the stories.
That's what I'm saying. That's what we do. So I just randomly thought of this because it is what it is. Carrie, what is a movie that either the one you've seen recently that is like I want to talk about it, or a movie that is like a personal favorite that you feel is just mad underrated, where it's like I want to like shine some light on something, whether it's a recent one where it's like you just haven't had the opportunity to talk about it, or no one's talking about it, and god damn it, we're talking about it right now.
All right, wait. Let me think. If someone else thinks of one first, go for it.
Yeah, anyone who wants to go first.
You're a horror fan. You guys are horror fans, right? Like y'all are kind of new horror fans, like so to speak, right? Like you're kind of still getting into it. Have you ever seen? Have you ever seen Frailty, directed by Bill Paxton?
Oh yeah.
No.
Okay.
That's a great one.
I feel like it's a movie that nobody talks about. That is like so underseen and so underappreciated. If there's anybody out there that's horror fan, it's so good and so well made that like nobody talks about.
Frailty is a good example of like what you talked about earlier with Dread, where it's like it could be one of those ones that had a resurgence, where that could have a resurgence, I should say, where it's like everyone is recommending it, that it gets to a point where it's so overrated, because it's like it really is like the underrated, like when you think of like a movie like that, really, especially as a horror person or like an early 2000s, or you like Matthew McConaughey, you randomly want to talk about Bill Paxton, what I mean? One of those where it's like whatever, like there's so much that like you can like bring it into the atmosphere that like it really is great, but like I feel like it could be the type that gets overrated, but like until it gets overrated, let's watch it.
But it hasn't in 20 years. Like I feel like even 20 years later, it hasn't, and it's still.
But it has potential. That's what I'm saying. Where
totally.
The way it's made and like what the story is, it could just have a random resurgence, like, oh no, this is it. This and just shoves it in your face, and that would be a good thing. I would rather it be oversaturated than undersaturated.
I think Frailty is one though where don't watch it all the time. Watch it, kind of forget what happens,
like once a year.
No. I haven't. I've only seen it once, and I saw it like 4 years ago, and like I'm ready. Like you talking about it, like
it's great.
Watch it again.
It's so good.
Like, I know what happens.
I can't tell you how many times I've loaned the Blu-ray out to people and just said, just watch this movie. Don't do that. I have another one, but I'll let y'all go. That nobody talks about.
One I thought of randomly is Under the Shadow, which is
the Iranian.
It's an Iranian horror film. It's pretty slow burn, so I say only watch it if you like slow burn horror films.
That one was scary as hell.
It was pretty. It was.
It's a horror movie.
That was really scary. I love that movie.
Yeah.
Sinister is also
so maybe on rewatch, maybe it's not as scary, but
that's Sinister. And then what is the Mexican one? Vanessa. Veronica. Holy shit.
That was random. What do you guys watch? What do you deep dive at Amazon Prime and Shudder and shit?
Scary movies. Yeah. A lot of really scary ones.
Okay, hold on. So now that we're talking, just this is one of my favorite movies that I'm going to talk about in the next couple of weeks. But 1955's Les Diaboliques. That is a movie.
We just watched that. We loved it. It was great.
That was great.
The only movie, I swear to God, like I'm not like I don't necessarily want to call myself a horror fan yet, but like I am into horror. But like this is still, I've seen enough horror. Like my point is, I've seen enough horror to this point where it's like still, this is the only movie as a grown man where I was like edge of the seat by the end. I was like, what is going to happen? Like, because it's not a horror movie, but like it's so thrilling and like the acting and the direction, like as a French film from the 50s, where it's like, what the hell is going to happen? Like it like the scene, like without spoilers, the corridor where you're going down the hallway and you're just like, what is going on? It's one of those like, spoiler, this is never going to leave my top 100 because of just the impact it had on me from day one, and just, the ability that, how I felt on rewatch, where it's like atmosphere plays a factor on horror, where it's like you don't need jump scares, you just need to feel things. Like this is the perfect example of like why people consider like Silence of the Lambs or Seven horror movies, American Psycho even, because it's like the real life impact that like shit can have, you know what I mean? So it's like that's what you want, and like those are the great types of horror movies where it's like yes, and it's like yes, that those are the ones like you're talking about, like the different foreign language films, right? You can still feel it. Go ahead.
I have one. And it's actually one we just watched last night for Austin's show that I never got to bring up. And it's
Better Watch Out.
Better Watch Out.
Oh yeah, the horror
What movie did that beat, Austin?
Better Watch Out beat
Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, Lethal
Well,
Weapon. Yeah, I'm not a big Lethal Weapon fan. Lethal Weapon's overrated.
I didn't
yeah,
really know what to expect from this movie. I didn't know the plot or anything. I just knew it was kind of like a Christmas horror movie. And holy shit, that little freaking kid in that movie. Oh my god!
That
Like
kid
he
was
was
a good actor.
so intense and insane. I just wanted to see what the hell he was going to do next. There's like a thing with like a paint can, and there's like a lot of like different crazy shit that happens in this movie. It just like you just don't really know where it's going to go, and he's so unhinged. It's kind of like, you know, it was just like it was like the most recent time where I like just didn't really know where the movie was going to go, and I was so excited. And like usually I'm checking my watch just to see like how much longer, and then this was the first time I was checking the time to make sure there was still more left, because I was like, please don't be over. I want this to keep going on. This is amazing. Like I want him to do more crazy shit, because this is insane.
If you want to see another great kid horror acting performance recently, when it comes out on streaming, watch Antlers. I think I'm the only person in the world who watched it in the theater.
I really wanted to go see Antlers because
I saw it in an empty theater. Yeah,
because I love
Carrie Russell,
Jesse Plemons.
Oh,
Jesse Plemons, yeah.
Oh yeah, Antlers is one of the best examples that went through like the pandemic hell, because I think that was supposed to come out like early 2020 or even late 2019.
Yeah, it's been on the shelf for a while.
Yeah, that was one of those when the trailers were still coming out from like, oh fuck, I forgot about that. Kind of had a resurgence, because it was like, if you're a movie guy, you recognize the name, but like for most people, like, oof. So yeah, it was like in like the midst of like one of those things where it was like you said, Jesse Plemons, you're like, he's been looking like that with that mustache and the cop uniform for a minute, because that's how long that movie's been in my mind.
I've got another recommendation, unless Antonio has one. I'll let him go first. But
that's right. So we're still doing movies that we're like feel like are not getting talked about.
Well, or no, don't get talked about, or a little recommendation or something, maybe a hidden gem that nobody talks about.
I got two, but I'll go with the one since we're sticking with sort of like the horror aspect. I guess this would be like horror thriller. And again, I just thought about it because I'm rewatching Dexter, and I thought that when this movie came out, I was like, oh my god, it's actually a really cool movie version of Dexter, but I just feel like it's underrated. I don't feel like it's a bad movie at all. If anyone's ever seen the movie Mr. Brooks with Kevin Costner,
yeah, it's a good movie.
It's a very interesting.
Underrated.
And if you've ever seen Dexter, it's pretty much like what if Dexter was like older and like actually like lived his whole life just killing people.
Kevin Costner, like, Dane Cook.
Dane Cook's underrated. Demi Moore's in that movie, and I think no one really talks about it. I think it's also the really cool example of Kevin Costner playing against type, because he's like he's like a villain essentially, but he just does it so well that it's just like I feel like no one gives him any props for it. I feel like he should be cast as a villain more often because of how good he did in that movie. So that's what, and again, because I'm a big fan of Dexter, I was like, that's cool. Like, I kind of wish they did a Dexter movie. Obviously, we got a new season of Dexter, so I'm happy with that. But like, that was like a good precursor to everything, like as far as like serial killer movies. So yeah, that's the one I think. If you guys have never seen it, I recommend it highly.
Yeah.
Austin, you.
All right, are you guys fans of One Crazy Night movies? Like stuff that happens over one crazy night and following a character around.
Depends on the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a genre I like.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll give you a great example of a movie nobody talks about and nobody ever goes back to. That's one of the greatest examples of that. No, I just watched After Hours though a few nights ago. I never seen it before. That was fun. But just speaking of that, no, it's a movie called Miracle Mile. Have y'all ever heard of it?
No.
You never heard of Miracle? Okay, see, this is what I'm talking about. You never heard of a movie called Miracle Mile starring Anthony Edwards from Revenge of the Nerds and ER, all that stuff. So, 1988. I will give you the most basic premise I can to intrigue you, but I don't want to spoil a whole lot about it.
Wow,
so Anthony Edwards. So Anthony Edwards. It takes place in L.A. It's in the middle of the night. He's supposed to meet his girlfriend at a diner in the middle of the night, but he forgets to do it. He oversleeps a little bit. He goes. It's like 4 a.m. He's looking around for her. There's a random payphone outside the diner starts ringing. He picks up the phone, and there's a guy freaking out on the other end saying, oh my God, it's happening. I did it. And he goes, what are you talking about? I launched. There are nuclear missiles heading for Los Angeles. He's the only one who knows this information. And he says the missiles have been launched. And then you go from there. And he's got 1 hour till they hit. It's a One Crazy Night movie, and he's trying to get to his girlfriend.
That's
Miracle Mile. It's fucking fantastic. I'm telling you. It's on. I blind bought the Blu-ray a long time ago after a podcast recommended that it's on Tubi for free right now. So if it wasn't available on any streaming services for a long time, I had to blind buy the Blu-ray. But I just looked it up. It's on Tubi for free. Watch this movie. It will blow your. And the greatest thing is that once he gets the phone call, the movie runs in real time from the 60 minutes.
I love that.
From the time it hits, because about 30 minutes in, he gets the phone call, and then the movie's about an hour and 27 minutes from there to there. The end of the movie is when the missiles are coming.
I wanted to see a movie that.
I think you have like that. You have like Crank is another kind of version of that. I feel like.
Kinda, but this one's obviously more. Shit's about to go down, more epic scale. But nobody talks about this movie.
I just looked on my letterbox to see like if anyone reviewed it. Well, first I just looked to see if the where to watch, like because it shows like different like streaming services, just to see if there's anything free to watch it, because obviously that'd be preferred. But I only have 2 people that logged it. Brian Michaels, which he didn't say anything, he just logged it, and then Sean Fennessy. He heart reacted it, and he just said, "I love LA and I'm not leaving." So like that's based on what you described in that reaction. Like that's kind of intriguing. So I'm definitely curious. Like that sounds fun.
Well, I mean, but there's a lot of fun character actors that pop up there. Bubba from Forrest Gump, Nicolette Williamson is in it. Kurt Fuller, who you'll recognize, it. Denise Crosby, Tasha Yar from Star Trek is in it. Who else? Oh, the guy who played in Mortal Kombat Annihilation, the guy who played the Shao Kahn is in it. He shows up for a minute. Earl Ball, the guy who was the doctor in Terminator 2, like the psychiatrist, he shows up. Like a whole bunch of people you'll recognize are in the movie. Like it's pretty great. It's one of those fun games. 1988 Miracle Mile. Watch it.
There you go. Well, my 2 movies are movies that are known movies. But it kind of like relates. I don't know if it was this episode or last episode at this point. Like they've kind of like blended into one. But like kind of the expectation. I think it was this one. The expectations where it's Martin Scorsese directed both of them, Cape Fear and Shutter Island. I feel like these are 2
Cape
movies.
Fear's great.
I feel like these are 2 movies that if you're going in, kind of what we were talking about, like Death Proof. If you're going in. And Last Night So, if you're going in for a Martin Scorsese movie, you're not getting a Martin Scorsese movie with Cape Fear and Death Proof. I mean, Shutter Island. It's one of those
Death Proof.
facts. No, Cape Fear and Shutter Island are 2 like borderline horror movies. You know what I mean? It does, like where it's like you could classify it as horror, but it's not. But it's like if you're a horror fan, you appreciate for what it's doing. But it's like it doesn't. The character stuff that you're building up of like the real life horror. What I was talking about, hinting at with the Diabolique, where it's like the Max Cady in Cape Fear, just the creepiness of the revenge, the ego, the bitterness, the just crazy that he instills in that film, and also the fact that Robert De Niro is having so much fun, but also the campiness is like within the character, so it's not slapping you in the face with its campiness. It's like his like what southern drawl or like whatever accent he's doing, where it doesn't feel out of place. It just feels within the character, and it's like adds to the creepiness. Like it does a fantastic job. And then Nick Nolte like doing Nick Nolte stuff, but like early, and like, you know what I mean, like the opportunities that he gets to like quote unquote Nick Nolte is like when he's afraid. So like when he's doing the like that's him being afraid, you know what I mean? So it's like it makes so much sense. And like I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like I'm not really a big like Juliette Lewis fan. I don't know
I love her.
I don't know what it is, but like I've never like,
it's because I love What's Eating Gilbert Grape. That's why I love her. That's
fun fact. That's one I really need to rewatch, preferably before Saturday for Rank 'Em, Leonardo DiCaprio movie. But it
doesn't hold up very well. Just me personally. Yeah.
Anyway,
I think
so with Cape Fear, I feel like that's just a movie that people either haven't seen or haven't seen since the first time you saw it, and I feel like take the Martin Scorsese name off of it in terms of expectation, and it's fucking great. And Shutter Island, same exact thing. It came out the same year as Inception, and it has Martin Scorsese at the helm. So when you think of those two things, like you just take that out of it. Like honestly, every complaints or diss or just negative thing I've ever heard about Shutter Island is just like the ending, blah blah blah. It's like if you had that feeling towards the ending, then you're either one in the million or you heard some things and you got, like we were talking about earlier with expectations. Your mindset was on one thing because of what you've heard. You know what I mean? But like as a whole, Shutter Island is just so well constructed, so well acted. Ben Kingsley is just one of those characters. Mark Ruffalo, everything that they do in that movie is just so much fun. Leonardo DiCaprio is just so understated because it's essentially LARPing. Like he's playing playing a character within a character, and like if you've seen the movie, you know what I mean. It's one of those where it's just like on rewatches you understand just certain subtleties. You have Ted Levine playing a small role. It's like is that just a random character showing up, or is it kind of a Buffalo Bill, Silence of the Lamb, like hints? You know what I mean? It's one of those things where you have
Stottlemyre?
Yeah, exactly. Monk, favorite show of all time. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like, you there's so much to go on with those movies where if you don't look at them as Martin Scorsese movies and you just look at them as like thriller horrors, however you want to phrase them, they are bangers. So if you haven't watched them in a long time, I truly recommend it because take the glasses off of whatever you had the first time you watch it again. I promise you they are great. So,
I don't remember.
People don't talk about Gangs in New York enough. Speaking of Scorsese, it's fucking great.
I actually haven't seen Gangs of New York. I need to check that out.
Fantastic.
I don't say this often, as someone who loves The Dark Knight as a movie as a whole, no matter what, and people have that whole like it's a Joker movie, blah blah blah, Batman's in the background or whatever. Gangs of New York is a Bill the Butcher movie. Like everything with Bill the Butcher is top notch. Like if Bill the Butcher was the main character and everything else was in the movie, it could be top 10 because like Daniel Day-Lewis, one of my, everyone knows how I feel about There Will Be Blood and just Daniel Day-Lewis as a whole. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where it's like, yeah. So like Bill the Butcher, Daniel Day-Lewis. The scene where he talks about his eye and it has a substitute he's got the American flag wrapped around him, and it's that's almost a horror scene in itself where it's like is this guy unhinged, or the scene where he does the thing and the blood on his face, you know what I mean? It's like and the opening scene, the 5 points, I mean there's a lot going on, but like it's a 2.5 hour movie and you feel it, you know what I mean? So it's like,
I don't feel it. It's one of my top 64. I fucking love Gangs in New York. That's just me.
Maybe I need to revisit it. So
you need to revisit it. The only bad part of that movie is Cameron Diaz. She's miscast and her accent's horrible. But other than that, the rest of the movie's great.
It's not the first time you're going to hear that tonight. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Sorry, right, Chad. Go ahead, Chad. Real quick. Yeah, go ahead, Chad.
Real quick, yeah. I thought of one that kind of fits a movie that I absolutely love that I don't think people normally really talk about a lot. And it fits in with what Austin was talking about, a one night movie. It's fucking Dazed and Confused, which I think is definitely in my top 10 now.
Okay, so pause real quick.
Sure.
It is talked about a lot, but I'll never diss you for talking about it, so go ahead.
I mean, I don't really hear a lot of people talk about it like around me, so maybe that's my bubble. But yeah, no, I freaking love this movie. I just think it's like a perfect movie. It's like the perfect of its kind. Like I even watched American Graffiti recently for our show my show that I do, and then my whole thought was I love American Graffiti, but it's still no Dazed and Confused. Like he just captured something there, and it's just one of the best. And I just think it's also one of the best uses of music in film too.
Oh yeah.
When I think of Sweet Emotion, like that's one of the first things.
Yeah.
Like
best opening scene. Like
I say it's so like Kirk, he's real popular for his not loving of Dazed and Confused and like Richard Linklater as a whole. And it's like the concept of like he doesn't like the likable characters because like the director Richard Linklater is kind of like spewing out his personality on these characters, which that's his diss with like the Before trilogy. But like Matthew McConaughey, he's like your problem is when your most popular character is like a creep and an asshole and stuff, like that's an issue. But it's like a lot of people like fight back on it. It's like the movie is not trying to say he's some sort of hero. It's acknowledging that he's a creep. You know what I mean? It's you're allowed to have negative things and like weirdos in your movie and not be advocating
The
for
Wolf of Wall Street is about a psycho, Jordan Belfort, who does despicable things the entire movie, and you're not supposed to root for him.
That is why I will always defend Pain and Gain, because Pain and Gain is essentially the same thing as Wolf of Wall Street, and it's not saying it's cool. It's just Michael Bay doing Michael Bay things. But like, it's not advocating for the stuff that they did in Pain and Gain, which Tony Shalhoub, shout out Monk. You know what I mean? Where it's, and you know what I mean? It's one of those things where it's like, you could have things like that, but people interpret it in different ways. And once again, that's the beauty of film, and that's also the negative of film, where it's like, fucking guy, you're wrong. You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you're like, you're allowed to have your own opinion and blah blah blah, but there are some things where you're just not getting it, and it's like, it is what it is. So I love Dazed and Confused, and I'm glad you brought it up, because I'm always down to talk about Dazed and Confused. But yes, that is one where the sound, or it's not talked about enough, but yes, the music is a blast.
And I just like reading, like watching and reading the Criterion stuff, just like what they put into like really capturing that time period and like people that would have existed in that time period. And it's just the best. I mean, I think American Graffiti does for the 50s what, they did for, the 70s. And
so fun fact, the football player, the one who didn't want to sign the contract, that was kind of like me in high school, where it's like I was the athlete, but also hung out with the skaters, the burnouts, the fucking, I sat with the Mexicans at table who played soccer all the time, where it's like, that wasn't my sport, but they were on their own niche thing, where it's like, I was that type of guy where it's like, if I saw you in there, what's up? I'm not too cool for school type of deal, but it's also like, I was still in my own lane. You know what I mean? It's like, so I relate to that more than like most people, where it's like, people are like, oh, that's so dumb. He's just rebelling. And it's like, no, there's a difference between like rebelling, where it's like, in Captain America Civil War, where it's like, you're just doing it because that's not your thing, but it's also, it's not who you are. You know what I mean? It's like, that defeats the purpose of what you stand for as a person. But like, if you don't understand that, you just don't understand that. You know what I mean? Like, you're here for one, you're all for one, none for all, or whatever the expression is, it's like, and it's like, I feel like that is a great character, a very underrated like character, or it's like, it really holds tight of like, why I love that movie.
Yeah, I love that part of the movie too, because it's basically like the teachers just asking them not to live their lives.
Yeah, and it's like granted, you're in high school, don't drink, don't do drugs, blah blah blah. But it's also like, it was more of like, it was really like
the DARE program.
Yeah. There's plenty of people in this community that do not know what the DARE program is. A bunch of young people in this community. It's rough.
Yeah, marijuana is that gateway drug that'll mess your life up.
I don't remember what comedian. I don't remember what comedian it was. Where they have a joke where it's like, you have it's in I don't know if it's specifically DARE, but it's like one of those drug commercials where it's like, it's the inflatable doll, like they're all high on drugs, and it's like flat.
Oh yeah. Oh God. She sucks now. She does weed. She sucks now.
Oh my God. Like, oh, being like, I think maybe Austin's the oldest in the group. It's like being all in our general.
Am I?
How old are you?
I'm 35.
Well, maybe you might be.
Yeah.
Seriously?
Henry's younger than me. I know that.
I'm 28.
Yeah.
I'm 29.
I'm 31.
Fuck me.
Yeah.
I look good for my age. Shit.
That's what I didn't want to compliment you too much. I don't want to give you a big ego, but yeah, it's one of those
my
things.
My dad is 67, and if I showed you a picture of him right now, you would not guess he was more than 50. So I think good genetics go a long way. So yeah, no, legit.
My dad's bald. If he actually shaves his head, because obviously if his hair's longer, the gray hairs are gonna stand out a little more. But if he shaves his head and he just has his beard, he might have a little salt and pepper going on. But like, you wouldn't guess over 50. But like, I mean, he's in his mid 50s, so but you wouldn't guess over 50. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's still good for his age. So it's one of those things where I look at myself like, if I shave my beard, knock 10 years off my life. Like, I literally try and rock a beard year round just for that. Like, look at Chad right now. He's, you would guess late 20s, early 30s with no beard. And same thing with you. You know what I mean? Just like, I'm not saying you look bad for your age, but like, you just look like grown men. Whereas me, teenage boy, shave it off, it's all gone. Like Antonio, 20 at most right now. Like you look like a young man. Like, sir, can I see your ID before you drink that beer? Like, you know what I mean?
All you youngins need to go watch Miracle Mile.
All right.
1988.
I guess so. That I did look it up. I am definitely interested.
Yeah, I'm interested in that for sure.
Yeah, we're checking it.
Hell yeah.
All right, so I think that's a good point where is there anything
this old man got to go to bed. He hasn't slept in 2 days.
You ain't lying. These beers have kicked in, and I'm ready for a nap. Austin, obviously people are going to be watching this on the replay because it's the late night. So is there anything that you wanted to shout out, just like generally speaking?
No, just me and Jordan, do our movie hero channel over there. So tier ranker fights, tournament fights, you guys know where to find us. A lot of these, Chad's been on the shows. You've been on. You're going to be on your top 64 next month. That'll be fun. Check it out. Get a little sneak preview of your 100 there. And but no, I mean, me and Henry can't talk about what we got coming up, but me and you got something coming up real special that we're gonna have some fun with. But some people might be able to figure out what that is. But
unfortunately,
that, I mean,
Chad
that's
knows.
Yeah, but yeah, me and you are both going to be on Malcolm's Rankum show on the DiCaprio. He's my favorite actor, so yeah, we're going to be talking some DiCaprio. That'll be fun. Saturday night, hell yeah.
There you go, Antonio. I know for the most part you don't really do your own thing, but you show up. Is there anything you just want to shout out?
No, just preparing for these upcoming tournaments, man. That's what I'm really focusing on. Mm-hmm. Freaking Dexter's distracting me right now, but I'm trying to just focus on getting ready for matches. But yeah, anytime I can come on round tables like these, man, I'm always trying to make myself available.
We're almost at 2 hours, and it's like it took us almost 2 hours, midnight my time, where it's like, all right, now we're getting to that point. But this is technically 3 hours for me and Austin. You know what I mean? Like that's why I love.
Yeah, we did another one just before this. We did a whole another hour, just us bullshitting about Rocky for 45 minutes.
Yeah, because like Rocky's one of my favorite franchises too. It's like top 3 for me. So.
We were talking Rocky and Saw.
We're doing Rocky Trivia Monday if you're available. Me versus Jake. So if you're in, start studying now. But and Austin, you too. I'll message you guys. But anyway, JPO shouted out for me and Jake. But anyway, Chad and Carrie, anything that you guys just want to shout out? It could be your local supermarket. I don't care.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of tournament, I'm in the midst of 2. I'm doing the TMG singles. I beat Steve Mesa, and that holy shit! Still can't believe I did that. But
trivia god, Steve.
Mesa. I'm excited to see how far I can go. I'm gonna play JD Domash and Geek. It'll be my first. Well, if you don't count the Geek for All, then it'll be my first like actual Geek match. So I'm interested to see how that goes. I'm in the heat of movie battleground. I got to play Joe Farrelly next, and it's going to be a tough one, but I'm excited about it. I've been preparing a lot. Okay, yeah, okay.
You should see my text message history. It's just like arguments.
All right. But also,
getting in the zone.
So there's that, and then also just my show, Dill Pickle Movie Network. Picture this. We do every month. We do a year of the Oscars. Watch the movies, rank them, just the Best Picture nominees, winners, and then we have a lot of fun over there. We're doing 1947 for December because it's got Miracle on 34th Street.
There you go. And Carrie, anything other than horror taglines that you want to shout out?
Just horror tagline.
Gotta love that running joke. It'll never get old. It was
oh shit,
top notch.
She's like, take this belt.
Fact. So yeah. It's so much fun. So as always, if on the replay, obviously no one's watching now, but if you made it this far on the replay, first of all, shout out to you. Comment your name and then like it yourself because you deserved it. But Henry Confidential, Austin Pezhal, Antonio Chavez, Chad, and Carrie, you guys are all fantastic. This is the Confidential Roundtable because this is what we do. We just shoot the shit for an hour, essentially today for 2 hours because, why not? Or technically 3 hours for me and Austin. And because that's just what we do. So Henry Confidential. This is the Dial In for Movies Network. Henry Confidential YouTube channel. There will be trivia. You're gonna see that. Eventually, I'm gonna start the War Room because I like my own debate, but it's more of like free form. You'll see when it eventually starts up in the new year. So Henry Confidential, everybody. Thank you guys. Peace.
Peace.